Hi, I'm Rhys Lawton, and this is MainScream Media, watching the mainstream news so you don't have to. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's rake up all the media into a big old leaf pile, then jump in like a news Labrador. Woof, woof. Boris Johnson. He's OK, yeah? Still got it? The mainstream media's notoriously fickle. Powerful, sure, but even your closest media mates find it hard to back you when it's all turning to shit. It seems like the Prime Minister's struggling a bit, doesn't it? All right, struggling a lot. And that was even before Wednesday's migrant tragedy, which saw many more desperate people lose their lives making the perilous Channel crossing. He was already getting flack from all sides over social care, sleaze, COVID and Brexit. Yep, that one's still there too. Gentle chiding from the Express? Bad news when that rag's anything other than fiercely loyal. And now, the letters of no confidence are going into the chair of the 1922 committee. You know, that spineless way the Tories tried to topple their leader. Like writing to the chief elf to complain about Santa. Tell him yourself your presents are shit! I never did get a reply. Or any more presents. And that scruffy guy in the red suit is still in charge. Damn him! Speaking of scruffy, here's another.
None of this represents the kind of political crisis that would see his MPs force him out any time soon.
Sure about that, Robert? After this clusterfuck in front of business leaders?
Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me.
He also spent time comparing himself to Moses, invoked Lenin, odd choice for a Conservative, and even odder a certain porcine children's character too.
Peppa Pig world is very much my kind of place.
If you mean expensive, childish and full of animals with noses in the trough, I guess you fit right in. What is it about prime ministers and pigs? Are you all right, mate, thought the assembled press. It was so monumentally bad, someone decided to ask him straight up.
In your speech to the CBI, you lost your notes, you lost your place, you went off on a tangent about Peppa Pig. Frankly, is everything OK?
I think that people got the vast majority of the points I wanted to make, and I thought it went over well.
Yes, it was great, wasn't it? A tour de force. Everyone said it was fantastic, including, right words, wrong sentiment, Boris. I'm sure Peppa appreciated it if no one else did. Oh, wait, I might have found someone to back him.
All those long silences and references to Peppa Pig. What did you make of it when you saw it?
Prime Minister's on great form.
A slightly easier ride for Raab over on LBC. Nick Ferrari did rip into the speech, but then gave him a fun quiz afterwards.
I'm sure, Deputy Prime Minister, if I were to ask you Peppa Pig's little brother's name.
Oh, God. One of them is called George.
That's it. That's it. And lastly, as Justice Secretary, the name of the police officer in
I can
Peppa Pig.
picture him now with his whistle. Isn't it a dog or something?
Oh,
I can't remember
close.
his name.
It's Police Officer Panda, Justice Secretary.
Oh.
Must have been kicking himself. And you know it's going badly when Ant and Dec are doing the politics.
Oh, forgive me. We got it... forgive me. We got it, forgive me.
Nice one, lads. The press reaction? Well, some admitted they'd spotted it. The centrists, right and left alike, put it front page. Would be weird not to.
But did you see the 30-second gap? I mean, that was not how he normally performs.
Well, look, I think anybody, when they're doing a speech, quite often you could work through a speech and you get to a certain point, and a thought comes to you and you want to expand on that thought.
But the more traditional Tory bunch pretended it wasn't a massive deal. The Mail chose to focus on Dominic Raab reforming the parole system. Not doing it, of course, that would be mad. Just talking about it. Big exclusive. For them, the story quickly became who the senior Downing Street source was who'd told the BBC the speech was shambolic. To be honest, it could have been anyone. And the Express was very interested in those migrants. Oh, wait, they did put Boris front page. Tiny piece, almost missed it. Boris is shrugging off the mess, isn't he? That's what happened, we all saw it. Anyone can have a bad day. But there's a pattern emerging here. Boris's election-winning Midas touch is having the opposite effect. Everything he touches turns to shit. The BBC, the press and the royals, that holy trinity of a mainstream shitstorm, or perhaps a traditional love triangle. Who's in favour, who isn't? It's all so complicated, isn't it? Bit like a royal marriage. Right now, the BBC is out in the cold. See, the Beeb's got a new documentary, The Princes and the Press, Will's and Harry's relationship with the media, including claims of vicious briefing wars between them.
This is not the the official machine briefing staff. This is people leaking stories who may be one removed from the central action, I don't know, two removed even, or possibly they're right in the centre of the action, they're being very naughty.
Yeah, mate, can you just say that your missus was shit in suits, yeah? I mean, that is to say that a source close to me, that is to say that it is me, thinks that your missus, that is his missus, is shit in suits. Also find out what this suits thing is, yeah? Okay, yeah, that's great, just, yeah. Cheers, print that. I'm sure that's how it might have gone. The palace is fuming. So fuming that they've gifted ITV an early Prezi, a Royal Carol concert. What a treat. Oh, fuck. I mean, thanks, guys. That's just what we really needed. What a ratings grabber. You really shouldn't have. See, the royals wanted to check out this BBC documentary before the plebs saw it. Love a good premiere, they do. Always first in line for the Bond films, too. Anyway, the Beeb said, fuck off, watch it on telly like everyone else, or something like that. The BBC's had a bumpy relationship with the royals in recent years. Unadulterated fawning? Not so much these days. Why? Oh, just Martin Bashir faking documents to lure in Princess Di, that time they pretended the Queen had a hissy fit, that interview with Prince Andy about how close he was to a convicted sex offender.
I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking.
All left a bad taste. Might be the dough balls. The press is backing the palace. Maybe they think the royals won't notice that the whole point of the programme is the paper's shoddy treatment of them. Hounding the young royals, hacking phones, buying pap pictures, all the usual. That aside, the Mail on Sunday is raging. How dare they indulge in such tawdry stuff, airing dirty laundry in public? Guys, relax. Aren't you still fighting Harry's wife in the courts after publishing her private letters? Others piled in and took the obvious royal line too. Tittle-tattle, that's all this is. Sorry, if it's such rubbish, why is everyone so worried about it? But the BBC made itself a sitting duck here. Who's at the helm? Amal Rajan. You know him. Done every job at the Beeb. Not particularly well. Media editor, The One Show, the Today programme. No? Sure? Look, you must know him. They even put his name on screen in case you didn't recognise him. Was he insightful? Was he fuck?
Let's call this the deal. Look, journalists are always doing unspoken deals with people. I worked in newspapers for the best part of a decade. I cut a few deals myself.
Yeah, you did. Also oversaw the downfall of The Independent too, didn't you? You name it, Amal's probably fucked it up. Soon to replace Laura Kuenssberg as political editor, if you believe the hype. Mostly his own. Anyway, the Mail seized on his Republican past. Like that's the worst thing here. Yes, he wrote an article in 2012 calling the monarchy absurd. Didn't, much like Prince Phil, R.I.P., thinks Charlie's scientifically illiterate. I mean, that's hardly all groundbreaking, is it? The BBC hit back. This article predates Amal's work at the BBC. Once journalists join the BBC, they leave past views at the door. So that's all right then. The slate wiped clean. Maybe get Prince Andy a job there. Cricket's a lovely game, isn't it? Lazy afternoons, the gentle sound of wood on leather. That's a bat and ball. Don't know what you're thinking about. Spanking. And some good old-fashioned English racism. When former spin bowler Azim Rafiq first made allegations of institutional racism at Yorkshire, the club said use of the P word was friendly banter. Yes, really. And I know, Yorkshire, eh? A county which famously stopped anyone not born there from playing for them until the early 90s. Don't like outsiders. Didn't see this coming, said no one. Of course, racism in football's expected. England fans racially abusing their own players? Of course they are, especially after the government told them it was OK to boo them. But cricket? A sport for racist gentlemen? Surely not.
Now, I have to admit that I was a bit naive. I thought in all our important sports, you know, racism had been eliminated some time ago.
I know, Robert. I haven't seen much racism either, but then again, I'm so white I might as well be the music of Coldplay. So that's two of us white guys. What a coincidence! Maybe it's all made up. Or maybe ask someone who might have a better idea.
Were you as surprised as many of us, you know, when white cricketers were saying, this is just banter?
Do you know what? I wasn't surprised at all.
Must be careful about this. Sensitive. Got a debate? Go to the only panellist from a minority group first. That's OK, isn't it? Or is it actually racist? Who knows anymore?
With the revelations from cricket's Azim Rafiq and footballers still taking the knee, What does this say about racism as a continuing undercurrent in present-day Britain?
Nazir.
The brown person will answer first.
Yeah.
No disrespect.
Nazir, so do you think that was wrong of me to come to you first?
I think so. I think.
Well, let's not do it then. Jordan.
Yeah, go to the white guy instead. Much better. Rafiq gave evidence to MPs about racism and bullying, and heads started to roll. Plenty of well-known figures dragged in, including himself. He had to say sorry after Facebook messages from 2011 showed him using anti-Semitic language. Bit awkward, that. It made the media narrative even trickier. The mainstream must have a hero, and until now, it's been him, the courageous whistleblower. So, what to do? Some tried this tack, ramping up the historical nature of his own conduct. 10 years ago, he's grown as a person. He's still the good guy. He's still our guy. That said, the stuff he's talking about is also mostly a decade old too, but that's too much nuance for some of them. Surely those with most to lose aren't digging into his past deliberately to cast a bit of doubt, placing stories designed to damage him. Easier to demonise one guy than to admit institutional racism. So, who is Azeem damaging? Well, loads of people. What he alleges happened is awful stuff. He accused former England batsman Gary Ballance of calling him the P word, which Ballance admitted to and apologised for. But then, Rafiq said Ballance nicknamed all non-white players Kevin. Apparently so well known that teammate Alex Hales used it for the name of his dog because it was black. Hales denies the connection, not helped when he was pictured in blackface at a party in 2009. Orcs. The media attitude? Fuck 'em! Those guys are bad news. Throw 'em to the wolves. They're the only ones getting hurt. So what about Michael Vaughan? Former Yorkshire and England captain turned telly and radio pundit. Fingers in lots of media pies, lots of mates. Rafiq says Vaughan, before a county match in 2009, told a group of his own players of Asian descent, "There are too many of you lot, we need to do something about it." Whatever could he mean? 2 other players backed him up, while Vaughan strongly denies it, which is a problem for some outlets. Why won't he do the decent thing and admit it so we can sack him? After all, he's the Telegraph's star cricket columnist. They must have thought their luck was in to get a sexy sports legend who can write a bit too. So when it broke, do we run the story? Of course, we must. We're professionals. Right there on the front page. No context, though. I am no racist. Really, Michael, what have you gone and done? Since then, it's front pages, all right, but front page of the sports coverage. Because it's a sports story, isn't it? Australia 255 all out, England racist. But there's another thing. Vaughan's a mainstay of the BBC, a show on 5 Live Radio and central to their Ashes coverage next month. Would the BBC stand by their man? It's only allegations, right? No, of course not. He's gone from both of them. But never fear, Michael. History has proven that this kind of stuff isn't career suicide for cricket commentators, even for the BBC. What about Jonathan Agnew? Yes, dear Aggers. The BBC's voice of cricket had a spat on Twitter with another journalist who Aggers thought was accusing him of racism. C-words all over the place. Said sorry, deleted his Twitter, back on the mic. And what about my dear old thing Henry Blofeld? In the 90s, he referred to an area of Headingley as the Jewish Stand. Bit odd. Is that where the Jewish people like to go, Henry? No. In fact, it was because that was where the cheap seats were. He meant to say the Scottish Stand, which, let's face it, isn't great either. But he said sorry, back to work. He's even got a book out for Christmas, 10 to Win and Last Man in case you need a stocking filler. Think it's about golf or something. And why leave out Geoffrey Boycott? Yorkshire and England's epic batsman, both in terms of runs and the time he took over it. Yes, Yorkshire again. Here's a guy convicted of beating his ex-lover and saying he might have a better chance of getting a knighthood if he blacked up. Yes, the blacking up thing again too. Apology from Boycott, tick. He was even knighted in 2020. Bit of trolling from the Queen there.
No, Geoffrey, young man, blacking up won't be necessary.
Anyway, the point is there's always a way back, especially on the Beeb. Did you know the Daily Mail is staunchly religious? It's a fervent follower of JC. No, not him. Jezza, of course. You'd think a right-wing rag would be glad he's been banished from the front bench, kicked out of the Labour Party, and is basically as good as retired. Nah, the ghost of Jezza still haunts it. You'd think he was still leader of the opposition or something. Look, guys, I know the new guy's dull, but leave Corbyn to his courgettes, maybe? I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. Like when Keir Starmer was doing a speech on the economy. That's right, that really dull one you heard next to nothing about because Boris was doing the... forgive me. Stuff. So, what did the Mail do as a preview then? That's right, over a year after the departure of his predecessor, the Mail has decided it's time to draw a line under the Corbyn era. Wish someone had told editorial that. But that wasn't the only time he popped up out of context. Take this odd, news story? Come on, sing it with me. Oh, Jodie Corbyn. It doesn't quite have the same ring to it. And come on, lads. Jodie, Jeremy and Lenin can't be the only three who bought that hat. But the most bizarre one came in the shape of Corbyn breaking the law. How, you ask? By potentially having a meeting that he's already apologised for having at some point in the future under new terrorism laws introduced by the Home Secretary. Confused? You'd be forgiven. See, the story actually was that Priti Patel has prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organisation. Yes, they have been for ages, but they also have a political wing that had escaped the wrath of the UK authorities until now. Those are the ones that have suddenly become terrorists. Never mind that for decades the UK was all too happy to deal with the political Hamas. Pretty much at the time that Jeremy Corbyn met them to try to, stabilise the Middle East or something. But never far from the Mail's watchful eye, Corbyn now faces a decade in prison for meeting with the group. Oh, wait, what? Oh, that's only if he, ever meets up with them again. Oh, Daily Mail, how we love you for flogging a dead horse long after it's been buried, following its cremation. There's something weird going on at the BBC. Getting awfully fawning with the new Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries. And she's been openly slapping them down a bit too. Yeah, she's the same one who said the BBC might be gone in 10 years and alleged to have threatened to cut its funding after Today programme presenter Nick Robinson told the PM to stop talking.
There's no supply of young people in this country who, frankly, at the moment are thinking of becoming truck drivers.
You have made that point very clearly, and I'm going to make a new one.
That is going to change.
Prime Minister,
that is going to change, and that's going to be a good thing.
Stop talking.
Mwah, beautiful. Nad denies it. But the mood seems clear. Not really a mate of the BBC. So a bit of a shock when they got her on for an exclusive interview, her first in the job, and let her spout off about whatever she wanted.
Those who want to engage in culture wars, which I don't actually, and I think, so that comment that, I've written more books than I've read and, something about being I found those comments quite misogynistic.
Doesn't like culture wars, right? Hurrah for free speech, the good old days when everyone could say what they thought, even if it was a bit, dodgy. But also, don't criticise me, lefties. Keep your trap shut. They've hijacked social media, haven't they? There's the article from the BBC, making its own shitty interview and news story once again. Then there's Nadine's relationship with BBC political editor Laura Kuenssberg. If anything, Laura's been accused of being too Tory-friendly, which is rubbish. Look, she even did an interview with Irish Taoiseach Micheál Martin, a.k.a. Prime Minister of Ireland for BBC viewers too thick to know it, and spent a good bit of time trying to get him to take the piss out of Boris Johnson.
Do you do impressions of any politicians?
Privately.
Any impression you do? An impression of Boris Johnson?
No,
Many people try.
No, I haven't done one on Boris.
Go on, do Boris. It'll be fine. I won't tell anyone. It's newscast. Very late night. No one's watching except that bloke doing MainScream Media. Now here's Laura quoting a source saying PM Boris Johnson looked and sounded weak. His authority is evaporating. It's almost like she's trying too hard to put a bit of distance there. Here's Nadine's reaction. Laura, I very much like and respect you, but we both know that text is ridiculous. Although nowhere near as ridiculous as the person obviously totally desperate for your attention who sent it. Laura, stay behind after school. I'm calling your mother. Dorries insists it wasn't a rebuke, because that would be very wrong, wouldn't it? Bit of a power imbalance. The British Broadcasting Corporation, while state-funded, prides itself on impartiality, journalistic rigour, holding our political overlords to account. Whether it does seems to be a matter of opinion. But there's an elephant in the room. It's an elephant that costs £159 and is rampaging through your house if you haven't paid for it. The licence fee. A war's coming, a funding review next year, and the Tories are making noises which Dorries ominously says she's noted about scrapping the current model. That's the model that forces everyone watching live telly to pay up, even if they're not watching Auntie Beeb. And if they weren't switching off before, they will be for this Christmas lineup. 2 episodes of what could generously be called comedy, Mrs. Brown's Boys alone led to an online backlash against the licence fee. Ooh, better keep Dorries on side. The Beeb's also been wrapped up in some culture wars of its own. Accusations of transphobia, Auntie pulling out of the Stonewall LGBTQ+ diversity scheme, saying there was a perceived risk of bias. That's the same scheme government departments have also ditched, as have Ofcom, the broadcasting regulator. Coincidence? Outgoing BBC head of news Fran Unsworth even allegedly told those who didn't like what was going on to get used to hearing views you don't like. Sounds right up Nadine Street. Couldn't all be part of the same agenda. A BBC trying to show its anti-woke credentials, a culture secretary scolding impartial journalists. All a bit sinister. High-speed rail. Nightmare, right? For most of the mainstream, for a decade and a half, it's been, good God, let's stop the madness. I mean, years overdue, costing billions we don't have. Does anyone really need to get to Birmingham 29 minutes faster? All while riding roughshod through people's homes and gardens. Won't someone think of the environment? From the ones who moan about petrol prices and stupid eco-protesters. No contradictions, please. Then, big government announcement. Screeching U-turn. Billions cut. The East Coast bit to Leeds is off. No stop for Bradford. Sorry, lads. And the Northern Powerhouse project gets a downgrade. Broken promises much? The North's always seen as a bit of an afterthought by politicians and the media. That can't be true.
Do you accept that in that manifesto you grossly overpromised and are, as a government, under-delivering?
No, I don't at all, and I'll tell you why. Right. We are delivering on our promises, and if we had more time, I'd gladly share that with you.
All right, Sajid Javid, thanks very much.
This kind of investment in the North is desperately needed, and the government pledged to level up. A thank you to all those northern seats that turned blue last time. Like most trains, it's all a bit late. Nearly 2 years late, in fact, and unlike most trains, quite a bit cheaper. Disaster.
Levelling up is just a catchy phrase, and actually, when it comes to it, this Conservative Party, this government, is not levelling up by any measure.
£96 billion, Kay.
50-odd billion that's already been promised.
Well, sure, but we're delivering the projects. We're setting out with as expedited a time frame as we can.
Rather less catchy when he puts it like that. Hardly being dragged over the coals, was he? It's all a bit, So, any celebrations from the anti-HS2 brigade? No. Kinda looks a bit shitty to piss on the North. Lots of front-page interest in Meghan Markle, Prince Charlie's charity and those pesky migrants again. The Sun had no regrets inside either. Admits it hates HS2, but says it's about over-promising. The Andrew Marr line there, also taken up by another top BBC hack.
Now, let's be clear, the government's spending loads and loads and loads of money on improving railways across a lot of the country. But that's the problem here, isn't it? They're not doing what they promised they would. And you guys have been looking more closely at the details of it. Does it stack up to something that feels like a promise that hasn't just been delivered?
Seeing a bit of a pattern here from the Beeb. Yes, Laura, yes, it does feel like that. They promised full-on HS2. They haven't delivered it. The Guardian, Mirror and The Eye all splashed on the Great Northern Betrayal. Must have been a bit of a wrench. I mean, a Tory vanity project, right? That's what it is. And yet the North needs the cash. So, gritted teeth. You should have spent more on this massive Tory mess. And the Express was unashamedly out batting for Boris as usual. It's not a betrayal. We are spending nearly £100 billion on the northern stuff. What would have been a betrayal is scrapping the whole thing, which we kept pushing before. The government says the cuts do mean upgrades are faster and cheaper. Just read the small print.
People use words like betrayal, and if you're a passenger, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, what's happened? So I would encourage people to actually download the Integrated Rail Plan.
It's 162 fucking pages, mate. I'm all right. Anyone else want to pitch in?
Watcher.
Watcher, mate. Sit this one out. ITV's political editor was a day early for the announcement. It showed a bit.
A new line somewhere.
Yes, he's teasing us. He had all the info, of course he did. But let's try some more reaction. We've done the nationals. What about the regional papers, particularly in those areas affected?
Manchester Evening News, second-class ticket for the North. We've got also the Northern Echo, I think, as well. Johnson's railway promise hits the buffers. And the Manchester Evening News as well, saying that, looking again at the region's sold-out betrayal in this rail plan.
No, you did the Evening News. That's the Post. Yorkshire, Manchester, who cares? It's all the same to you, isn't it? Peston fell into that one a bit with Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham.
One of the things that we absolutely know is that HS2 is not going to go to Leeds. Does that worry you in Manchester?
Yes, it does. Just from a straightforward sort of Northern solidarity point of view.
He's a nice guy, is Andy, but don't push him. We're all friends in the North, but we don't like to be lumped into one homogenous gloop. Maybe some graphics will help us understand what's going on.
That HS2 line, that fast line, is still going to be built here from Birmingham to the East Midlands and up here from Clayton to Leeds. But the bit in the middle, it won't be a new line anymore. It will be an upgrade of the old line.
Can you see that? Makes more sense if you close your eyes, I think. What would Labour do instead? Go for the full HS2, surely. At that point, Peston got a bit too excited with Mayor Andy.
Why do we always do half a job? Build half of what's necessary?
But the big difference in France, as I'm sure you know, is they basically, bulldoze through. They say to people whose houses are in the way, here's a ton of money, there are no planning restrictions, we're just going to do it. Should Labour do that? It's not the British way, just to force people out of their homes.
No, you don't do that. But
that's what they do in France.
That's one hell of a way to ramp it up a bit. I don't think it's binary, is it? The Tories' downgraded plan, or get all French on us and bulldoze people's houses without a care, throw down huge wads of cash. You just want things back to the 70s, don't you, Andy, mate? No jobs, no food, couldn't bury the dead. You and Jeremy Corbyn and your communist cabal. Shall we talk about all the good work I do for charity? No. I think I'll just keep that to myself. Why? Because it's something I do in my own personal time. Thanks for asking, though. In the mainstream media, it's very different. Let's try this. If you send me £10 right now, I'll jump in this bath of cold baked beans. Go on, bit of fun. Not convinced? What if I showed you a video of a dying cat that needs a life-saving operation? Fancy donating now? That is, in a nutshell, BBC Children in Need. £1 billion raised since it all began, but my God, does it come at a price. A hefty tag of smug, self-righteous self-congratulation. Aren't we brilliant? Sorry, I mean, aren't you, the viewers, brilliant?
39,389,048
What an incredible night! Sorry, if we're so amazing, why are you there? But Rhys, the celebs get the cash in. Do they? Or have they just worn you down, like a busker with a recorder who only knows one tune? Here's 20 quid, fuck off. Last year, when most of you celebs weren't there, it raised £37 million on the night. Almost as much. Maybe the public don't need you guys. Where to start?
And kicking off Children in Need 2021, it's Ed Sheeran.
Of course, Ed Sheeran. Why not? With a huge audience, because COVID's not really a thing, is it? Now, let's be really clear about where we are before we rip into this too much. The young people this charity helps are incredible. This isn't about them. This is about Auntie Beeb using them to cover itself and its shitty roster of talent in glory while doing nothing more than telling you to cough up. The celebs giving out their time for free? Yes, that is the point of charity, but I do need to spell it out. Remember when it came out that the face of the night, the late Sir Terence of Wogan, had been pocketing £1,300 an hour? So what about the crap we have to watch? Those special editions of telly shows, 5 minutes of nonsense, how generous they are with their time. This year, soap stars on That Dating Show, Graham Norton on Mastermind, newsy people on I Can See Your Voice. Nah, me neither.
Could you tell a bad singer from a good one before they've even sung a note?
Oh, got it. Sounds a bit prejudiced. And something called The Wall? Geezer, Danny Dyer, some massive quiz machine. What are the rules, Danny?
This game's simple. We're going to ask a question. We'll drop them 3 balls down the wall. Get the question right, the balls turn green, we're banking red. As you get it wrong, the balls turn red, we take the money away. We don't want that.
I'm sure it makes sense to someone. I'll save you the bother. They won some cash. BBC Cash? Very generous. Oh, wait.
Thank you to Enterprise and Procurement Hub, who kindly donated that prize money along with McDonald's.
Sounds a bit like a plug. Not very BBC, is it? I'm sure there are rules against that kind of thing.
This game's simple.
No, please, God, no. Speaking of games, look, you at home can win some stuff. Lots more plugs coming.
There is a whole heap of home and electrical goods from AO, including a Nintendo Switch. Don't know what that is. 55-inch TV. Look at it. It's so smooth. Galaxy tablet, washer, dryer, Dyson air cooler. I think it's that. And that's not all, gang. £10,000 to spend on a kitchen from Howden's. Look at that.
Is this still children in need? Could you send that pile of crap to someone in need? Blurring the lines between donating to charity and self-interest, I'd say. I'm sure it's all above board. Wouldn't want another rigged competition scandal. Come on, there must be something good on. What about that show where they do something worthy, make a difference? DIY SOS, doing up a youth project in Hull.
This is DIY SOS, the big build for BBC Children in Need.
Stop touching that bear. Wait, something's wrong. You're not that nice, Nick Knowles. That caused a media sensation this year. Yes, the bar's pretty low. Why isn't he there? Well, he did some ads pretending to be a builder for a cereal company. The upshot is he can't be back on the show until next year. Can't presenters do ads? BBC Breakfast's Naga Munchetti did those ads for a bank. Strictly's Tess Daly is the face of a vitamin supplement. MasterChef's Greg Wallace does food deliveries. Confusing. Apparently, the Beeb says you can't mimic or replicate your BBC role. Why? I don't know. Poor Nick. Still amicable? Still mates?
Man down, though. We've got no Nick.
That's not really a problem, is it? All we need to do is find a rough old boy with a scruffy beard and we're laughing.
Ouch! Where were we? Oh, let's not forget the god-awful song. Band Aid in the 80s found out the hard way. Don't be patronising imperialist out-of-touch dicks. Do they know it's Christmas? Yes. Some of them even celebrate it, Bono. These days, can't be too careful. Let's make everything a bit bland, a bit safe, a bit shit. Cover some much-loved hit. Nothing by Michael Jackson or Gary Glitter. Oh, OK, that's another one I can never listen to again. Anything else to ramp up the drama? Oh, what about the running total? You know, where they keep going back to the amount raised throughout the night. How does it work? Complex algorithm? Chimps pressing buttons? Shouldn't they wait till the money clears? Back in the 90s, they used to have some very odd shit. They'd be close to the next million, ask if anyone in the audience had any cash, and some bloke would pop up with a giant cheque to get them over the line. Very convenient, but why not just stick it in the pot at the start? While we're on the cash, all goes to good causes? Course it does. Well, most of it. It's corporate charity land, remember? Most recently, Children in Need got flack for excessive wages. And a few years before that, the Mail, granted a traditional Beeb critic, ran a story about the charity sitting on millions rather than dishing it out. Children in Need said it releases cash gradually so that they can keep tabs on how it's being used. But even before that, there was the phone line scandal. Staff knowingly withholding money from the charity. I don't want you to think I'm just having a pop at Children in Need. Others have similar issues. Comic Relief was accused of having a white saviour complex. All those famous white faces hanging out with poor people in Africa. Because Africa doesn't have any famous people, does it? My point? Charity works great. Do it. Give to charity. Work with charities. Don't question too much why they exist or we quickly get to epic state failure. And a state-funded broadcaster with a corporate charity and showbiz gloss? All a bit crass. Another week, another old white bloke on the telly switches off. This week, Andrew Marr, the BBC's political dinosaur. He's off to do some commercial radio after 21 years with Auntie. It's been a great run. Editor of The Independent, BBC political editor, finally the Beeb Sunday morning heavyweight. And the corporation stuck with him too, during his recovery from a stroke, kept the seat warm. So why the abrupt change now? Says he wants to get his own voice back. Seems like the BBC's whole impartiality obsession is stopping him telling it like it is, whatever that is. But for now, the Andrew Marr Show on Sunday mornings continues, and he couldn't not address it. Except the own voice thing, didn't mention that at all. Funny that.
You may have seen or read that I'm leaving the BBC after 21 years. Now, I'm carrying on until Christmas, but I really want to say this. Not very much. You watch this programme, I hope, for the guests and their stories, not the presenter. It's always about the stories and not the storyteller.
He didn't seem that happy to be reading it. Maybe another storyteller wrote it for him. It's not about me, appears to be the refrain now. Don't stop watching. This show's bigger than me. I'm not the story here. Basically admitting any drone could step in and you'd have the same bland crap.
And so to the weather. Looking around, what I feel about the weather is that this week it has been very weathery.
You know, he's secretly hoping it is all about him and everything will turn to shit. Who wouldn't? And it's quite a contradiction, one we've seen before. I'm not the news, but I do want my own voice. His voice does get him into a tangle. This week, it was those tricky foreign names. Less of those about now that we've got our country back, am I right, Andy? He was interviewing this guy, the EU chap trying to get a deal for Northern Ireland with our guy, Lord Frost. Maroš Šefčovič is the name. I did have to look it up. That's how it is in the original Slovakian. Many people have a problem.
Vice President Šefčovič and
Maroš Šefčovič.
Maroš Šefčovič.
Maroš Šefčovič. Mr. Šefčovič. Maroš Šefčovič. Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe Marr decided to hedge his bets a bit.
Maroš Šefčovič.
No, try again.
Welcome, Mr. Šefčovič.
They even tried to spell it out. Pretty sure you need a C at the end. And at the end of the madness, another go entirely.
Mr. Šefčovič, a hard winter ahead.
By his own voice, I think Andy actually means what he thinks, not the torturous way he says it. Take this exchange with then First Minister Alex Salmond on an independent Scotland's ability to rejoin the EU.
I think it'll be quite hard to get back in, I have to say. But let's move on to the other big question we've had this week, Theresa May,
but
saying that because...
that's the... Sorry, wait a minute. Can I just
yes,
examine that for a second, Andrew? This is what the Andrew Marr analysis, as opposed to Sir David Edwards,
having talked to Mr Barroso, which I think you haven't.
Commission, as opposed, as opposed, Andrew, to the weight of evidence that's being presented to the Scottish Parliament's committees at the present moment. I don't know, is that an individual expression or is that the
No, it's not.
I've
got no views on this, nor does the BBC. I've got no views on this, nor does the BBC. I was simply reflecting what Mr Barroso
what your
had told
opinion
us.
was.
Indeed. The battle between Marr the person and Marr the BBC bot. And what about I'm not the story? He tried way too hard there. Remember when he finally revealed in 2011 that he'd been using a super injunction to hide an affair with a journalist? Yes, a super injunction. Not just a gagging order, but one stopping the publication of both the affair and the existence of the injunction. The BBC's hotshot truth seeker using the law to hide his naughty stuff. I did not come into journalism to go around gagging journalists, said he, despite the fact that he had done. Did he learn? Not sure. A year later, we had that other story. Andy, pictured drunkenly embracing a mystery colleague. Now, for legal reasons, I can't show you that photo. It's owned by the Sunday Mirror. But let me ask you to imagine Andrew Marr hugging a woman, going in for a smooch and sticking his right hand down the inside of her trousers. Yeah, sorry, I hope you're not eating right now. Anyway, he said Jackie, his wife of 25 years, was a bit cross. Bloody hell, I would be. Probably wasn't a fan of the affair either. Anyway, Andy, good luck with the move. The BBC's been good to you. Hope your next mistress is quite so understanding. And now, my scream of the week.
First, get consent.
Carol, is it all right? Can I approach? Am I safe to approach, Carol? Yes, Victoria, yes. Okay, yes, I've got consent.
The best way to hug is to go heart to heart. She may not be consenting after all.
So that's me, Rhys Lawton, and until next time, I will be watching the mainstream news so you don't have to. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss, well, all me. Yeah. You go now. Bye now. You hang up. No, you. Okay, bye.